I'm Dream Queen. You're in the cab with me. Thank you so much for rolling. So there's a lot been going on in the world. Y'all know this. You know, it's just been a lot nonstop for some say for all of our lives. And what can we really expect for the way that the trajectory of things has been going? Now, as a member of what they would call, you know, marginalized groups, myself, been watching certain things through my 48 years on this planet. As Nina Simone said in the last hour, everything must change. And I've watched things change. I've listened to my elders talk about how much things have changed and how grateful we should all be to be here with the rights that we do have. And then I watched those rights get rolled back, and every day it seems like more dangerous things are happening in our country and on the planet. The climate out here is very hot. Some people say it's like summer. Childish Gambino has a song called Feels Like Summer. Historically, a lot of riots and disruptions and protests tend to happen in the summertime when the cities are burning and the people are revolting. It gets hot. Our summers, even due to climate change, get hotter and hotter. And every week I decide, you know, I try to figure out how to use this platform to make people and myself feel good and create a nice little playlist and, you know, some ambiance. I don't know what each of y'all is out here doing and feeling, though. All I know is what I'm doing and feeling. And I try to imagine what y'all might be doing while you're listening to my show. Some of y'all, I know where you are, you know, because you're at work and I know what you out there doing. And some of you, I know what you say to me. You know, I usually do this when I listen. And then there's a whole bunch of other people that I don't know what y'all be doing. So if you're just joining, I appreciate you. So all I can do is go with my gut and go with what I want to put out. Because DJs are artists. You know, even though we're out here with other people's music and other people's, you know, art, we present it. And what an artist does, as Nina Simone has said, it's an artist's duty to reflect the times. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to wake people up and first thing and be like, here's what's going on. But I don't know, maybe you was up at 5 and now you a quarter into your day. Maybe you never went to sleep. You know, maybe you stay woke. But it is an artist's duty to reflect the times, even if you're trying to put a big bow on it and escort people through these times with a bit of Venusian flair. Even the most beautiful moments are made more beautiful through the pain and tragedy. But I'm scared, y'all. I'm not lying. I'm not going to sit here in front with you. Every week, it just escalates and escalates. And so I would be remiss coming on here and talking about all the things that I talk about all the time and not talk about the 2 men that were found hanged in Mississippi on Monday. Trey Reed, 21 years old, was found early in the day at Delta State University. Investigators are still investigating. There's been some preliminary reports that his death was a suicide. His family is contesting that. Our community is contesting that. And I'll get more into why why we would continue to raise our voices and demand more investigation. Cory Zukatis, 36, was found later in the day near a Vicksburg casino. Police are still investigating his death. I'm going to read something according to the Clarion Ledger that investigators are saying that misinformation is spreading online fast. And yes, because we are in a climate of and a time of race baiting. The race baiting because people want a civil war here in America. There are some people here who really want us to really hurt each other out in these streets and do their dirty work. I don't want to do your dirty work. Oh yeah. Right? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that, and I don't want to incite anything. I'm not here for that, but I do want to take these moments. Y'all know that I've talked about the police killings of black people who been unarmed, some in their own homes, some running away, some complying, in the process of complying, some exercising their constitutional rights. Everybody, I think, has a right to live. And so the police violence that leaves black people dead in the street, there's a technical term for these things. It's called a lynching. Okay? Technical term for a lynching is really someone who is executed extrajudiciously by a mob. Okay, usually a mob. And they're put out on display. Our country has a deep history of doing this. There is a piece on the NAACP website. You can look up the history of lynching in America at NAACP.org. And it talks, really, the NAACP is talking about what they've done in the 19th and 20th centuries to combat the practice. I'll just read the first paragraph on this page. What are lynchings? A lynching is the public killing of an individual who has not received any due process. These executions were often carried out by lawless mobs, though police officers did participate under the pretext of justice. Lynchings were violent public attacks that white people used to terrorize and control black people in the 19th and 20th centuries, particularly in the South. Lynchings typically evoke images of black men and women hanging from trees, but they involved other extreme brutality, such as torture, mutilation, decapitation, desecration. Some victims were burned alive. So, oftentimes they involve a criminal accusation, such as, robbery, or in Emmett Till's case, a catcall. He was accused of making a wolf whistle at a woman, and then two people subsequently later kidnapped him and lynched him. And that sparked basically the outcry. His mother brought his body back home and put his body on display, and for people to see what they did to his son or her son, and this really sparked a big part of the civil rights movement here in America in the early 1960s and late 50s. So, I just I can't come on here and not say anything for my people. So when, the thing happened with where Charlie Kirk was assassinated on the 10th, a lot of people got upset, started blaming the left before anyone was caught or questioned around that assassination. White people, especially the GOP Republican Party, began to call for a war and retaliation against the Democratic Party and leftist ideology. No one had been arrested. I talked about this a little bit last week on my show. No one had been arrested before they started to call for revenge on the Democratic Party. Then the next day, several historical black universities and colleges in Georgia and DC, around the country, were receiving threats, bomb threats and things like this. And some schools were closed down. There's no real word about who made those threats. But if you've lived in America and studied your history, you've been here for any amount of time, some assumptions could be made. I'm not a fool to do your dirty work. Sorry. We have a legacy of this here in this country. And they would like us to sit back and accept that we're going to wait for law enforcement, who has never been fair to us, to go ahead and do these investigations and come out with the truth. But some of us are doubtful about that. Also, on the same day that Trey Reed and Cory Zukatis were found in Mississippi, in Minneapolis, there were 2 mass shootings in homeless encampments. And we also know that the same people who have been calling for violence against the left and against marginalized people have also been very vocal about their feelings about the homeless. That is just hard because right a few days before this shooting at the homeless encampments, Brian Kilmeade, Fox News host, was on his show, Fox and Friends, having a discussion about the mentally ill homeless person who was caught on video. He killed someone. He killed a woman on the train in the seat in front of him. She was a white Ukrainian woman, and he was a black homeless man with mental problems. And this just escalated the conversation about getting rid of the homeless by any means necessary. And Brian Kilmeade said on his show that maybe involuntary injection, just kill him. His co-host had said mentally ill and homeless people should be more aggressively detained and forcibly treated. And then that's when Kilmeade interjected, or involuntary injection or something, just kill him. Now, these are not just the words and the sentiment of a Fox News host, who still has his job, by the way. We haven't even touched on our administration is very much supported by Fox News and is kind of the mouthpiece of this administration, in my opinion. Brian Kilmeade still has his job. He made an apology a few days later saying, that was a bit callous. I shouldn't have said it, but he still has his job. The White House put out an executive order a couple of months ago saying that they wanted to make the streets safer, considering involuntary committing of homeless people, mentally ill people. We talked about that a little bit on this show, and it's up there under the executive orders on the White House website. So what I'm saying is there's people out here in America that have historically been given license to carry out an agenda of violence and white supremacy based on what they believe our country are the values of our country. And they commit acts of terrorism and murder against people who are deemed not worthy to live in their country. There's a rise in this activity. At the same time, the Department of Justice has removed from their website a study that was done that reflects most of the hate crimes in America are committed by white supremacists. They took that down, and the page has a 404 now. And I want to play a song or two or three in mourning, in exhaustion, in frustration. I'm tired. I'm confused. And I don't understand why this is going on still. I was thinking about World War II and World War III. Some say we're not there yet. Again, in my opinion, I'm not inciting anyone. In my opinion, we are in a very heightened global conflicts right now. We're everywhere. A lot of people are suffering around the globe due to war behavior. And we're escalating things in the Caribbean, the United States is, and we're escalating things here at home. Stuff's going on in Russia, where, stuff's going on in the Middle East, stuff's going on in Europe, and Africa. The businesses have their fingers in all these pies, right? Last week I talked a bit about Vietnam and the wars that people were fighting in Cambodia, Laos, North and South Vietnam, proxy wars backed by the United States, Russia, China. The independence wars as countries trying to free themselves from colonial rule pre and post World War II. And I realized that it's easy when I think about war. I just think about what's going on in the moment. I think about what was happening in the past that brought us there. But when I think about where we're at now, and I'm like, everybody's got their bombs pointed at each other. Everybody's got their guns pointed at each other. Everybody's got their ideologies pointed at each other. And that's the hardest part. That's why they be like hearts and minds. I don't want to hear like hearts and minds. I got that George H.W. Bush, hearts and minds, because it's wars of ideology. And that's why they're trying to shut down the museums and the educational system and history and, the war against woke and all of this other stuff is because if we look at our wounds and where we're coming from and we got to heal that stuff, We have to heal that stuff. And if we start healing that, maybe people are a little less likely to support the wars. But it looks like this train in the United States is barreling backwards. And it's hard to think about how people can change their minds. And I know a lot of my listeners, we're good, right? You're tuned into this show because you want to listen to me. And if you're listening to me, I know that we got things in common about love and tolerance and making the world a better place. So I'm not here to chastise my audience. I guess I just want to take a moment and continue to represent my people. Trans people are not the problem. Trans people and leftists are now being considered terrorists. These are new movements that are coming out of the administration that have made it to the Capitol floor. People are having these conversations, and Texas finally got some bills passed where trans people can't use public restrooms in certain institutions. I'm not trans. I don't identify as trans. However, I present non-binary. I've had police come in the bathroom on me in Albuquerque Airport because a woman misgendered me and sent them in there after me. 2 cops in flak jackets, men, coming in the ladies' room, questioning me. What's up, man? What's up? What's up? You're in the women's room. Like I'm a woman. Anybody else in here? Looking around. No. I'm washing my hands. That's not the only time. People just want to live, man. Okay? Meanwhile, in Waldorf, Maryland this week, a 2nd grader, 7 years old, was attacked in the bathroom by a 4th grader and hung up on a hook by his jacket that began to strangle him. The school called it horseplay. Waldorf, Maryland. Okay? Now, his parents pulled him out of school because they're terrified. What is happening? We have to be aware because we have to look out for each other. We have to look out for each other. We know that Black and brown people are missing all the time. White people are missing all the time too. People are being trafficked and people are being hurt. But they don't often come looking for us. And they often don't come looking for the assailants that abduct us. So if you want to learn more about lynching, I encourage you to go over to the NAACP website. I'm going to play a song by Nina Simone, and I'm going to play a song by Billie Holiday, and we're just going to see where it goes after that. I thank y'all for listening. I appreciate your support. I appreciate this town being a safe place for me. Y'all are doing great out here. Keep your hearts open. Stay brave. I know that a lot of you have family and friends that you don't always see eye to eye with. You have people that you have to associate with that say hurtful things. And I know you do the best you can to stand for what's right. And it may come at a cost of alienation. But I appreciate you showing up the best way that you can. We all have to keep doing that. And these 2 songs I'm going to play is just feelings. And it's just a moment of mourning. And then we stay on the battlefield. Like Jim Morrison said in the last hour, they have the guns and we have the numbers. That's all they really have. Jesus, I don't know how many of y'all saw the images coming out of Illinois yesterday. The National Guard pushing down these 2 Democratic, I want to say that they were running for office, but they did a sit-in at an ICE facility. And 2 white women, they thought they were doing the best they could by blocking those ICE agents and putting their privileged bodies on the line. And they got shoved down, pelleted or maced in the face. And that was some jarring imagery because it's not something that we often see. I've thought about the 4 students at Ohio State University that were killed by the National Guard. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young did a song about it. They were protesting the Vietnam War. We're out here in the middle of our desert paradise. And people often say, don't worry about the things that don't affect you. But these all affect us. They affect us on the energetic plane. And these things, they creep. They creep. It's like a vining plant. You look up one moment and there's a tendril wrapped around your leg. And even if it's not the cops busting down your door, it might be for your neighbor, or it's just the emotional distress of a dear friend that can't show up the way that you're used to them showing up because they're overcome with grief and fear. And I just want us to see each other and understand the history of what's going on here. Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit. That song, I found it interesting as I did a little research into it yesterday. Did you know that a person named Abel Meeropol wrote a poem called Bitter Fruit? That's what Strange Fruit is. It's that poem put to music. Abel was a Jewish American person. His parents were Russian immigrants who happened to escape Russia and the pogroms, which were practices that are similar to lynchings. You can learn more by just putting in strange fruit or bitter fruit in a search engine. I'm on a page called Experiencing History, and it has a nice little factoid page about this poem. And his family was experiencing anti-Semitic violence And these pogroms were like mobs. They were mobs of people who would go through and do all of this same horrible things to people that were happening here in the American South. And so when Meeropol wrote this, he was feeling it. He felt a kinship and a horror to what was happening to people here in the South when he saw the images. The image that inspired him was two brothers who were hanged and mutilated and photographed in front of a crowd. There were two black people and there was the white crowd of folks that were pointing and smiling. In those days, they would bring the whole family out and celebrate the lynching, and then take the pictures and send them around as postcards and market these. It was horrifying. And so I'm going to read a paragraph here that says the context of this is that Meeropol was an amateur songwriter, and he set the poem to music, and he and his wife performed it several times at protest rallies with black singer Laura Duncan, including one performance at Madison Square Garden. But the song did not become well known until it was sung by famous black jazz singer Billie Holiday at New York City's Cafe Society. Cafe Society was the first integrated cabaret in New York. It was popular with elites in the arts and left-wing politics. The founder of this nightclub had heard Meeropol perform his song and asked him to play it for Holiday, who was the club's headlining performer at the time. And at first, Holiday was hesitant to sing it. She worried that the customers at the nightclub came simply to be entertained and would not be receptive to a political song. She also worried about becoming a target of racist aggression and violence herself. But the audience response at Cafe Society was thunderous, and Holiday soon embraced the song as her own. It became the closing number of all her live performances. And I went down a little rabbit hole on Billie Holiday and on Abel Meeropol. And it comes back to what I opened this segment with, being on the fence all the way up to the moment. What are people here to hear? And I just have to stay on the path of what I believe is right, and know that my audience is a compassionate one, and that y'all are here for it. Because we're here for each other, and you know I'm here for you. This song, and Billie Holiday's story around this song, and Abel's story around this song, and Marvin Gaye's story around what's going on that we covered last week, and where we're going to get to Nina's story around Mississippi Goddam. These are all instances of people being told or being afraid of a backlash on what could have been seen as a political moment, when really they're human rights moments. I don't know what politics is anymore. It seems to me that all of this is human rights. It's our rights to live free of brutality and fear. There's another famous quote from Miss Nina. She was asked in an interview, "What is your idea of freedom?" And she said, she laughed, and she had to gather herself and look like she didn't know what to say, and then she came back to it. She said, I'll tell you what freedom is. Freedom is no fear. Freedom is no fear. The unedited version of Mississippi Goddam, That was performed at a concert, the Westbury Music Fair on Long Island in New York, April 7th, 1968, just 3 days after MLK's assassination, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You can see my discussions with some of my friends, and it's a lot of reflections by myself because it was hard to get a lot of people in here to talk about Martin Luther King. And I thank everybody who showed up. You can go to the archives at In the Cab Radio at Linktree, or follow me on In the Cab Radio at Instagram, Mixcloud, and check it out. We covered in the book club A Knock at Midnight. And we also talked about his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech. Well, I'll say the speech that he gave at the dinner the day before his acceptance speech. It was very powerful. And also letter from Birmingham jail. That's another quote from Nina. When she met Dr. King, she went up to him and said, "I just want you to know I am not nonviolent." And he said, "That's okay, sister." But we're all doing the best we can to get by and make sense of the senseless. Lean on each other. Listen to the people who's been here before and survived it. Thanks, y'all, for hearing me out. We got this. I hope you have a great week, and I hope to be back with you. Take care. Love you. In the Cab Radio is produced by Jada White, a.k.a. Dream Queen. Original theme music produced by Baby Weekend Boys and Icky Mac the Beat Jugular. Learn more at In the Cab Radio at Linktree. Thank you so much for tuning in.